Um, this is a video where I'm going to discuss some social activism issues and how to help the world, as well as different stuff about face and body paint. One of the social activist issues I will do will pertain to neurodiversity acceptance. Um, so I'm going to start out with this. I did this body art today. This is a heart with eagle feathers. So this is based on something I did a while back, which was on the Autistics Worldwide. Sorry, on the Autistics Worldwide Facebook group. There was, for a while there, it had a cover picture of people painting hearts on their upper arms to show solidarity with neurodiversity awareness. And at that time, I also painted a heart on my upper arm and showed it, uploaded it to that group. This is my second heart, and I added the addition of eagle feathers, which is just, adds the whole kind of majesty and peace, since in earth-based four-footed Judaism, eagles and other birds are messengers of God. So, I wanted to recap about my last video about saving the Vaquita. There's one thing I forgot to mention that could be very helpful to saving the Vaquita. When anybody goes to change.org to sign the petition to urge the Mexican president to ban gillnet fishing to save the Vaquita, it is best that along with signing the petition that they add a little message of their own, and that it's best if it's not inflammatory, if it would not insult the president or make anyone sound like a real, radical wingnut or anything. Not that any of you are, but I feel emotions like that too. I feel like I want to put those kind of slamming comments, don't you dare do that, whatever, on petitions that I feel passionate about. But for them to to be as effective as they can, it's best if we just, if you do leave a message, but the message would be, important from your heart, but not like telling the president that he's a murderer, even though I think that he is. It's to say that something like, Dear President of Mexico, please, I ask that you ban gillnet fishing because I care about these porpoises. I don't want them to die. I think that saving this species is more important than having this specific type of fishing, so just be kind of gentle and reasonable about it, from the president's perspective, so that you might gently convince him to change his mind and use different types of fishing equipment. You could suggest that if he uses different types of fishing equipment, the fishermen can still keep their jobs, but this porpoise could be saved, and that's a win-win for all. So, so as for other social activism, I, as somebody with Asperger's, am a disability rights advocate for neurodiversity. ABA is something that I am 100% against because I happen to have been an autism vet. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at age 6 at the very end of the 80s. It was either November or December 1989. So, a lot of people who didn't get diagnosed until they were adults, some of them think I'm lucky because I got early intervention. But it was anything but lucky. The early intervention for me consisted of years of emotional torture through ABA. So I know that ABA right now is being lauded as something great. It gets glowing reviews. People think it really helps kids with autism. But if you really look at what it's saying, what it does is it basically tries to force us to be normal. And if you're a furry Eartharian, if you're a furry Eartharian as a kid, you obviously need to know how to behave appropriately, since most of society thinks furries and Therians are weird, and if you bark in public, then, other humans who aren't furries or Therians will think you're crazy. That's necessary to tell kids, and it's cool. You can tell kids, to bark or meow in the car, to the jingle cats, and, like those cats meowing out Christmas carols and stuff. and at home and stuff, and have places where you can do that, just not in public or at school. However, the issue with ABA that I dealt with is that they would act like that is not okay. And they had that whole idea. A lot of them were Jewish or Christian believers who believed that passage in Genesis, which I will get into about the history of and why it is not actually Jewish in my later videos, that says that God made man alone in his own image and made man special and different from the animals. I'll go into that later, but that is actually not necessarily monotheistic or Abrahamic. But because they believed that, they would try to, part of the forced normalization for me was to try to force me to accept being a pure human and feel proud to be completely human and nothing else, and and be proud of the fact that allegedly I was more special and different from other animals. Now, for an autistic kid who isn't Therian or furry or other kin, who is just different, even then, under ABA, they will, if they do anything that's different, such as break out into song in public, like Life is a Broadway show, which I think would actually be cool. I honestly think it should be, acceptable to live life as if it were a Broadway show, to break out into song at any time that you wish, because there actually are cultures in which languages are sung more than spoken. So, but something like that, and if you do all kinds of things that aren't considered normal, ABA will basically tell you you can't do that, that's not acceptable. And even if you can't stop laughing, if you're having a silly day, if you're uncontrollably silly, they'll tell you you need to take a break, or otherwise they'll punish you just for laughing uncontrollably, or giggling uncontrollably as you talk. I mean, what is wrong with that? I mean, I know you have to pay attention in school, but they don't have to punish you for it. So, with ABA, there have been cases of ABA where kids are physically abused or punished. I, however, didn't deal with that, but it didn't mean that the ABA I experienced was any less traumatizing. It was all emotional trauma in my case, in which the point of ABA is to normalize an autistic child, to try to kill the autism, the perseverations, the things that make us different, that make us the free to be whoever we want to be, and in my opinion, the things that give us more freedom to be different, allow more diversity and color within the world. ABA tries to stamp that out and to try to force autistic kids to be normal human beings. Normal just in general. Like, if you're a teen, for one thing, if you're a preteen, once you're 12 or over, they try to force you to stop playing with stuffed animals in some cases. They want you to just get into teenage issues or preteen issues. I'm 32 and I will always watch cartoons, play with toys, go to the circus or to Broadway shows for kids like Cats and the Lion King. I don't care. I don't, define my interests by age group, because I think that that's ageism. Anyway, so in my experience, if you didn't try to act normal, if you acted out of line, they would, if you did act normal, if you obeyed the ABA therapist or the teacher, you were subservient to them and you normalized your behavior, you would get a candy bar or another piece of candy and some soda on Friday at what was called Points Party. You were graded all week by a point sheet, in which you got high points for, conforming with their standards of good behavior, and you lost points, or you got zeros for, deviating from that. So if you got enough collection of lots of points, you got to have Points Party on Friday, where you had candy and soda and got to socialize with the other friends who passed the test. But if you got too many zeros or didn't get enough points, you were forced to sit in the corner without any candy or soda and feel bad, allegedly, for your behavior, and that would motivate you to behave better. So you didn't get to have any treats. I have a saying for that, in that I refuse to sell my soul for something as stupid and trivial as a piece of candy. I think that everyone with autism or Asperger's, anyone in the autism spectrum, whether they're furry or Therian or other kin or not, anyone, should consider that and fight for our rights to be different. I agree with Temple Grandin in that if I could snap my fingers and be non-autistic, I wouldn't. It is part of who I am. Because for one thing, if I was neurotypical, I would probably have very different interests. I would probably have differences. I'd probably have interests that were more in line with the majority of people. I'd probably be more typical, and I wouldn't want to be that way because I feel that my interests, which are considered different, very different from the majority, not from neurotypicals, make me unique, and they increase my freedom to be who I am. I would never want to be neurotypical. I would never want to have normal neurotypical interests. What neurotypicals insultingly refer to as fixations or perseverations, I consider being hardcore about what I love. It's hobbies, it's passions, and there's a deeply spiritual aspect to all of it. It just there's like no greater love, I think. And there's the meaning that what I love, my so-called fixations, bring to my life is just wonderful. It's so that's another reason why I am completely against the anti-vaxxer crowd, who believe that by foregoing vaccinating their kids, and sometimes by withdrawing from all modern medicine, that they could cure them and make them all neurotypical. For one thing, that's not true. It's been proven false. And also, not vaccinating your kid does run the serious risk of giving them serious diseases that vaccines can prevent, because there are some people within society who, due to illness, can't be vaccinated. Um, Not vaccinating other kids weakens the herd immunity. If other kids are vaccinated, then those people who can't be vaccinated are often protected from the disease because the rest of the herd is protected from it. But if more kids are not vaccinated, then those people who can't have vaccinations for medical reasons are very vulnerable to getting sick and possibly dying from the diseases that the vaccines prevent. So, let me see what else. So that's what I'm saying. Those are a couple of things I'm saying about social activism. One other thing, some social activist things that I work on is sometimes you really have to be careful about labels on products. It was exposed for a while that free-range, cage-free eggs and chicken is not always, accurate. Now, there is another thing that people don't always think of. People sometimes have this idea that small companies are always free of corporate greed and they're so innocent, whereas large corporate companies are always evil. Believe it or not, that is not completely that cut and dried. Now, I know some people think that using any kind of animal product is exploitation. I honestly don't think it is, and I don't think it's a violation of animal rights. I will be giving my explanations for why I don't believe that it is in later videos. But in regards to which animal industries are the most abusive to the least abusive, the answers and the actual facts may surprise you. The beef cattle industry, as a lot of people have known, has been improved greatly by fellow autistic Temple Grandin. However, even before she had improved it, handling of the cattle was atrocious, but the idea of cattle in muddy feedlots is a lot less based in reality. I'm sure there are some, like they have said that, Michael Pollan saw them in Colorado, but a great deal of the nation's beef is raised in Oklahoma and Texas, where the feedlots are dry and not dirty. And the cows in general have a much better life than the media or the far left, either mainstream or far left media, often paint them as. Another thing that may surprise you is that the fur industry, even though it's a billion-dollar business that gives coats to rich women, is not really the worst. It's not that cruel because in order to have nice fur coats, you have to treat foxes, minks, and other animals you're going to kill for fur nicely. Now, the ethics on that are debatable. I do have some fur garments, and I'm not totally against fur. I do think that rich women who have lots of fur coats just for vanity and for status, I think that that's excessive and that's taking more than you need from the circle of life. But at the same time, I'm not completely against having some fox or mink or raccoon fur, all of which I have some of. So, but I'll get into, the debatable ethics of that later on in my later videos. The companies that you want to avoid or you want to be careful of in regards to animal cruelty the most would be the poultry and egg companies. If you want to check out the info about which companies are actually humane and where, the kindest eggs and poultry and beef and dairy, whatever, pork, whatever. There is the Certified Humane website has a lot of a lot of info about which farms really are the kindest. And I know that some of the eggs you buy that are actually free range and that are the nicest to the chickens include Pete and Jerry's, the Country Hen, Organic Valley, and then there's this type that says pasture fed, and it has pictures of green grass all over the carton. I don't know exactly what the name is. I know it just has pasture in the brand name. But Trader Joe's and Whole Foods brand name eggs, even though they say they're cage free, they technically are, but the chickens are still cranked. So that's what it is. And there's one thing I've heard that the fair trade label in regards to human rights and the rights of workers is not always cut and dried either. This is something I really don't know too much about, so I'd have to do more research, and so would you if you wanted to. But I do know that the company Northern Sun, which has made clothes and other novelties for left-wing people, for progressives, recently sold out. A lot of people don't know that, but it used to be all, fair trade clothes, fair trade everything. Recently, however, I guess it went under new management, and it's now producing clothes cheaply in some third world countries by probably abused people treated as slaves. So as part of that, I am boycotting the company. Given that I don't even wear t-shirts, I just wear tank tops. It's not really, and it only has a few tank tops. It's not that hard for me to avoid. I also, I like the toys there and some of the food items, and it's more the novelty stuff, like the posters, the calendars, the toys, the, hats and stuff, and bandanas, and the food that they have that I like. But because that company sold out and is literally a slave driver now, I am going to find somewhere else to get that stuff. So that is some of my sense for some of my info about social justice now. I hope that anyone who signs a petition to save the Vaquita can please add that kind of message that I told you about that I forgot to say in the original video, but I recapped here. And I hope as many people can sign the petition to save the Vaquita, with that kind of message as possible, so that the Vaquita population can be saved and recover and be in recovery by Hanukkah, winter solstice, and Christmas this coming December.